Look, if you're like me, then you can probably only stand so much Trivial Pursuit, Monopoly, and whatever other TV show branded crap board games your family has shoved under a coffee table before you implode like a dying star. But family game nights don't have to be this way. There's been a massive explosion of amazing board games for die-hard, cardboard-craving tabletop fans like myself, but alongside them there's also been a massive wave of good quality family-oriented games as well. It's often assumed that modern-day board games are too complex for your granny to get in on, but that's simply not true, and to prove it, here's 5 excellent board games that will work for all ages without ever resorting to Candyland. Jenga has sat atop a pretty wobbly pedestal of most popular block tower games since its introduction to the world, but if you've played more than like 3 games of it, then you'll probably know that it can get pretty old pretty quickly. It's great that the rules are so simple and it's so easy to play, but it does end up being a little over simple, which can often end up in it sitting in a cupboard for the next 20 years gathering dust. Enter Crazy Tower, a love letter to Jenga enthusiasts everywhere that reimagines the classic family block pusher, making it more colourful, more interesting, and giving you a few more strategic options along the way. In Crazy Tower, 2 to 4 players, or teams of players, will be assigned an identical set of coloured blocks in different Tetris-esque shapes and sizes in one of the 4 bright primary colours. These are the blocks that will make up your eponymous Crazy Tower, but the crucial difference between this game and its predecessor is that said tower will be constructed throughout the game rather than before you begin. The goal of Crazy Tower is to place your blocks on top of one another's, gradually building up a more and more rickety monolith until you're the first player to have placed all of their blocks successfully, or until someone manages to cause the thing to come crashing down all over the table in true Jenga style. Play is very simple. You either play a block on the current level of the tower, or you place one of the square cards from the deck onto the tower and then place a block onto that. The square cards are what keep construction both uniform and tricksy for the players. Each one contains a square grid of red and white squares, which you'll have to align your pieces to horizontally to be able to place your blocks. They can't overlap any red squares to be placed legally, and although you can let part of your block hang over the edge of the card, at least part of it has to be touching a white square. The really tricksy part is that whilst your blocks have to rigidly stick to that grid on the card, when it comes to placing a new card on top of those blocks, it can be in any orientation you damn well please, provided it stays there long enough to place a new block. This turns the rather rigid, straight and narrow tower of Jenga into a wibbly-wobbly double helix of doom. Imagine the end of a Jenga game where there's a million different holes and structural weaknesses in the tower that all threaten to bring it all toppling down. Now randomly rotate all those blocks in different directions and have it twist madly up into the sky, holding itself up on a wing in a prayer, and that's Crazy Tower. To add to the melting pot of janky jumbled pieces, there's a number of cards in the deck that contain special effects squares that will reward you with an instant boost if you manage to cover them up. Some are as simple as taking an extra turn straight away, allowing you to get closer to placing your final block, whereas others are more vindictive. One allows you to swap one of your big horrible pieces that are difficult to place with another player's more favourable tiny blocks. There's even ones that evoke the classic game that it's riffing on that will ask you to remove one of the blocks on the lower levels and place it back in front of the player whose colour it belongs to. Crazy Tower is a fantastic reimagining of a classic game, and it's perfect for families with different age ranges. Dexterity games are a great leveler between kids and adults, as it doesn't require too much careful planning and complex rule comprehension to be good at, as well as giving kids with small hands a little leg up against their blundering elders. It's quick to teach and can be enjoyed as simply or as strategically as you like without hamstringing your chances at winning. Not to mention the fact that you don't have to spend 5 minutes rebuilding the tower in between every round. Sure, dominoes are fun, but they're a bit, well, boring, aren't they? What if you could swap those plain pips for dragons, knights and wizards, and the blank tiles for lush green fields, sandy dunes or azure lakes? Welcome, friend, to the utterly charming world of King Domino. If you didn't guess already from the name, then King Domino puts a fantasy spin on the classic game of dominoes. Players take it in turns to choose a tile from the middle of the table and add it to their personal kingdom. That's right, you're the ruler of this kingdom, and you also somehow have the power to terraform the very land itself. Don't think about it too much, it's just a good game. As you add tiles to your 5x5 grid, you'll earn points for connecting up matching squares of terrain. Field, swamp, mountain, forest and water, multiplied by any crown symbols on the squares. Once everyone has filled their neat square-shaped realm, or cursed at the one gap that they weren't able to fill, you count up your points and declare a King of Kings. Easy as that. King Domino makes for a great family game because of its simplicity, but don't dismiss it as being little more than a slightly more colourful version of the classic. There's plenty of strategy to be found in rearranging your domain again each time you start a new game. With the tile you choose deciding in which order you pick next turn, meaning a valuable tile can put you to the back of the queue during the following round. It finds that sweet spot of being easy to teach to players of almost any age, while allowing everyone to play together and have a fun time. It's little surprise then that it won board gaming's most prestigious prize, the Spiel des Jahres, or Game of the Year, in 2017. King Domino is wonderful, but if you're looking for something with just a little more gameplay to sink your strategic teeth into, then we'd heartily recommend its sequel, Queen Domino. Queen Domino introduces new building tiles that players can construct in their realm to gain new scoring bonuses and other abilities, as well as the option to tax your kingdom's inhabitants using knights to earn the coin necessary to pay for the buildings. And if you want to stop your rival rulers from buying a certain building, you can even use your gold to torch a building tile with the dragon. Talk about heating up the competition! Queen Domino's more complex rules make it a different game to King Domino, but with all the same whimsical presentation and fun tile arranging strategy of the original. There's no downside to owning both, especially as the two can be combined for an even bigger experience. King Domino and Queen Domino take a traditional classic and turn it into a modern classic. They're the kind of games that you can play all day, with any group of people, old, young, experienced gamers, or even just total newcomers. Colourful, charming, and as entertaining to play as they are to look at, you'll never look at boring old regular dominoes the same way again. All hail the king, Domino.
And we're off! Watch the most thrilling, entertaining, and adrenaline-pumping race on the tabletop.
If you guessed cars, horses, or bicycles, you'd be wrong, and you also probably missed the title card that just came up, but it's camels! Camel Up is a favourite of the Dicebreaker team and countless other people who've played it since it first burst off the starting line in 2014. It's a wild, unpredictable and often hilarious game of placing your bets carefully before watching them completely come undone. The players aren't racing the camels themselves, instead they must try and predict which of the camel meeples will cross the line first. The earlier you bet on the right winner, the more you stand to win, but blowing your bet on a loser can be costly. Making all of this much trickier are the camels themselves, which move randomly each turn based on die plucked from the central pyramid dice shaker. If that wasn't enough, the camels will hop on each other's humps and form a tower if they land on the same space, with the poor ungulate underneath carrying along everything on its back when it moves. Don't ask me how that bit works. The players can try to help their chosen camel or hinder their opponents by placing down tokens that cheer them on, boosting them ahead, or they can boo them to send them a space back. Egyptian pounds can be earned by guessing which camel will be in front at the end of the single round, with the biggest payouts coming with the final finish. The updated second edition of Camel Up, released a couple of years ago, which ramps up the chaotic competition one step further, with two camels that run the entire track backwards, potentially carrying a player's favoured racer back to the starting line. The sharp new artwork, improved pyramid shaker, and pop-up 3D tree on the board make the second edition the version we'd recommend first. Camel Up is an utterly ridiculous romp where winning can come down to a lucky roll or two. That doesn't really matter because it's a crowd pleaser that's perfect for families who like to cheer around the latest racing or TV competition. The adorable cameeples, yeah, we're making it a thing, get over it. And the excitement of seeing the die that you need come tumbling out, and the hilarity of just seeing a stack of 4 camels travelling backwards never gets old. You'll have a good time, we'll bet on that. What do you think of when you think of cats? fish, maybe? Adorable mewing kittens, perhaps? Hairballs if you're unlucky? Probably one of those internet videos that we've heard so much about. They'll never catch on. Anyway, you'll probably not often think of cats as ninjas until maybe now. Cobraport is a game of lightning quick reactions. You know, like cats and ninjas. Actually, the whole cat ninja thing doesn't really go much further than that. Admittedly, the amusing box art, but stay with us here. We're getting to the good bit. The main thing is there are a lot of games that can be taught in 5 minutes or fewer on the list. If you thought that was quick, get this. Cobraport can be taught in about 5 seconds. Here we go. Roll the dice, grab the matching tile, first to 6 wins. Oh, did you think there was more? No, that's literally it. You get that? Okay, we'll slow it down just a little. Each turn, the dice are rolled. Each die has different symbols on it that correspond to each half of the tiles in the middle of the table. When the dice land, the players scan the tiles and try to grab the matching domino before their opponents. The first to 6 correctly nabbed tiles wins the game. Well, what if someone's already grabbed the tile that gets rolled, we hear you ask? That's still fair game. If the player with it in their personal pool doesn't cover it fast enough, another player can slide in and steal it from them, making for plenty of chances to catch up or to see your lead stolen from beneath you, literally, if you're not careful. We told you it was simple, and it is. Cobraport is a game all about the energy in the moment as the dice roll towards the next tile you need and everyone prepares to pounce on their target like a cat or a ninja. What energy though? Prepare for fingers to collide, hands to slap, and the room to suddenly be filled with more groans, grunts, and exasperated sighs than at a Wimbledon tennis match. Cobraport is silly fun that's perfect for filling a spare 5 minutes and getting everyone involved. If you want something that you can teach literally anyone, this is the game. It's also incredibly portable if you ditch the overlarge box it comes in and stick the pleasantly chunky tiles and dice in a small bag. We promise you won't regret grabbing this as fast as possible. When the wintry months settle in and things get a little bit colder outside, it's a bit more tricky to get outside and perform one of the most basic sports rituals there is, hitting a ball with a stick. But there's no reason that you should let the foul weather rust over your skills as you wait for the spring of next year to blossom. The Valley of the Vikings is a game all about hitting balls with a stick, and it's cheerful, simple to learn, and fun for all the family, provided you don't actually look into any of those Vikings and what they actually used to do in history, that is. Maybe save that story for another day when it comes to explaining your game to the kiddlywinks. To play Valley of the Vikings, 2 to 4 players will choose a player colour and pick up their token and an adorable little cardboard boat for collecting their coins in. The game consists of whacking a plastic ball with a cardboard paddle in an attempt to bowl over a set of 4 wooden skittles that match the colour of all the players. Should you manage to hit any of them and knock them over, you'll move the player token of every colour that managed to topple along one space on the track in an order of your choosing, which is important because if the space that you're trying to move a token into is already occupied, you'll keep going right until you find one that's empty, possibly leapfrogging multiple other players. Above the track are a series of flags that are randomly assigned a reward like a number of coins or a picture of one of the other players. Each round you take it in turns, knocking those skittles down and sliding your player tokens across the track until one player goes too far and slides off the end of the pier and into the drink. At that point, everyone scores the amount of coins on the flag above their position in the track. If you're in a position with a player's portrait above you, you'll instead steal one of their coins from their supply. If you're under a flag with your player's portrait, you'll get to steal 1 coin from every other player. And finally, if you were the player unlucky enough to get shoved off the edge into the cold, Scandi waters, well then I'm afraid you get absolutely nothing. Players will continue to go through multiple rounds in this fashion, with the player who gets dunked going all the way to the back of the track and play continuing. The game ends whenever you run out of coins in the supply, and victory is as simple as having more coins than anyone else at the end of the game. The Valley of the Vikings is definitely the most kid-friendly game on the list and will probably feel the most overly simple for older players, but it has the benefit of being so simple that even very, very young players can join in, and they're even encouraged to knock everything over in this one, so cleanup won't be an issue. As with Crazy Tower, the playing field gets leveled out with the simple motor skills needed to play, which will keep it competitive. So if you've got a really massive age group between your players, then this could just be the one for you. Thanks very much for watching, everyone. This has been 5 fantastic family board games that we here at Dicebreaker recommend. If you haven't realized, this is Dicebreaker, the YouTube channel that you're already watching. Please do hit the subscribe button below the video so that you can see all of our videos on your newsfeed, and you can hit the bell icon to get a push notification every time we put a new video live. And if you like it here, then you'll probably like it on Dicebreaker.com, our home and editorial site, where you can see all kinds of incredible written content, just like lists like this, reviews, previews, interviews, all kinds of views really. And you can also support the channel by heading over to dicebreaker.myshopify.com to grab some exclusive merch. But in the meantime, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope to see you on the next one, and have a lovely day.